What is up, y'all? It is your host, Renny, and you're listening to another episode of the Call Me Crazy podcast. What is up, y'all? I am here with Ahmad Mickens. He's actually my old boss, and funny enough, he was my first and only black boss until I became my own boss.
Right, yeah.
So it was really special working under him, learning from him. He also gave me a lot of grace in the time that I worked for him. I was going through some tough times and allowing myself to be stifled by different things, and he never gave up on me. So I really appreciate you for that. I was definitely scared to come back to the gym and just thinking that you thought of me in a certain way, but you always supported me no matter what. So
absolutely.
I really appreciate you for that.
My pleasure.
So today we are here and we're talking about business today because you own and have owned a thriving business as a black business owner for some time now. And I think a lot of people can learn from you, and I've learned from you and probably will learn from you more in this conversation.
Okay, let's go. Let's shoot.
So tell us a little bit about how long Revolution, what was your first business? Was it Revolution?
Revolution, it was Revolution Fitness at first. So Revolution Fitness was my first business, first legal,
by law
entity, LLC. It's my first business.
And what was that?
And I started Revolution Fitness, that was in 2005. In 2005, and I had a partner. His name is Andy Parker, a really good friend of mine. We started it, we were in the fitness business as trainers, most people in the fitness business, they usually start as trainers or group fitness instructors.
Right.
And, at the time I was working at a gym in Greenwich, and I was the head trainer, and I was bringing this business so much money. And most, trainers and fitness professionals feel if I go out on my own, I can make so much more money. And Andy was a real good friend of mine. So we both were, and he was doing really well too at the health club. And we were let's just start a business together. And we came up with the logo, the business, but our goal for the business at first was just to be able to have an entity to go off and just collect all the money that we were selling in personal training. We really wasn't thinking the technical part of business at first.
Right. It was let's just get our own spot so we can train whoever we want
and
whenever
get all the
we
money.
Want. Yeah.
Yeah. Not thinking about everything that it takes. Now, I've always wanted to be in business for myself. Since I was little, I've always looked at things a different way. For instance, it's always looked at things on how I can, capitalize off of it. Whether it was I used to bag groceries at the supermarket. I used to rake leaves and shovel snow. So I always was sell candy at school. I was always doing things like that to try to make money. And so when I look at things, services, I always looked at them in a way that, I can do this better. Why am I paying this person for that? I can do it myself. So I always look at things in that way, in a way I can do it or I can do it better.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's since I've always looked at things that way. But so we started that Revolution training. It didn't work out for us as partners because, like I said, we really didn't have the right intentions behind it. And so we did break up, and I did know that in fitness, I wanted to start my own fitness business, and I wanted to have my own niche. And my niche was boxing because, I grew up boxing in North New Jersey. So, although I didn't have a real amateur career or professional career, I did do the training. And people who trained with me saw, were able to benefit from those things I learned from when I was younger. Boxing. And so I said to myself, if boxing is going to be my niche and fitness, then I really need to know more about it because I can't go off information that I learned. And I just started researching and going into gyms and talking to the owners and telling, and I did this in New York because I didn't really want to do Connecticut
Right.
just in case I ran into my competition. So I just went to New York, went to all the boxing gyms, learned about it. Then I did come back to Connecticut and just started like looking up all the boxing, and I saw that Stamford had none. They had one boxing gym called Montalvo, and great guy, legend in Stamford in boxing, but he was operating in the basement of a church with no equipment. So I was like, oh, well, there's
a space for me.
There's a space for me, you know what I mean? And then they had another gym in Norwalk, and it was like, there's a space for me. So I really got on it, and you know, I was going to SCORE, a small business meeting, trying to put together a business plan. And this is what I would like to say about that, right? Because this is what happens with a lot of people, you know. So, you know, they tell you the traditional way is like you have this idea to put together a business plan. And that's where I got stuck. I really got stuck on the business plan because it was like I was buying all these books on business plan. I just like, how do I put together this business plan? And you know, I was trying to do all the things that these books said, and I found myself getting stuck. So I didn't want to get stuck. And what I did was I just went into action. You know what I mean? You know, in my research and in you know, researching small boutique fitness gyms, right? Because I did bring my search eventually up to Connecticut, and I was just very upfront with the people, like, yo, listen, and so I wasn't going into, it was no boxing gym, so I didn't need to go into no boxing gyms and compete, but there was a lot of small fitness studio. And what happened was, I went into this small fitness studio here in Harbor Point, right where we're at right now, on 860 Canal Street. That was my first gym. I went in there and I was talking to these brothers that owned this space. I was like, yeah, you know, asking them about their business and small business and telling them what I want to do. And they said, well, listen, we have space if you wanted to open up your gym in this space and kind of like just have the space. And I was like, oh, wow, you know, so let me think about that. You know what I mean? So, you know, I went back, you know, thought about it, came back, I said, yeah, I would do it. So that was how I first started. It was 400 square feet inside their fitness studio. And I put a ring in there, I put bags in there, had a grand opening, I started it. I was like guerrilla marketing, giving out flyers in the mall, standing in the mall, giving out flyers, talking to people, everyone I sent. I remember being in the mall, and I really hated like giving out flyers and talking to people in that way. It's just, I don't know. And I was just like really discouraged because I saw people taking the cars, throwing them in the garbage and all, and I was sitting there like, you know what? I made this excuse with myself. I'm gonna just give out one more and then I'm leaving. Cause I just, you know, my ego was just like shot. I was getting beat down. So I was like, all right, and I saw these two guys, right? And I'm saying to myself, like, you know, now I've been training in Old Greenwich, so I'm like, I have a certain clientele that I imagine would be coming into the gym and that I'm trying to market towards. And I see these two, I'm like, these guys don't look like they can afford the gym. And I was like, man, whatever. And I remember when I was working in sales for a telemarketing company that you couldn't just, they say you never assume, you never know where that next seller's coming from. So I just walked to the guy and said, listen, man, yo, I'm opening up a boxing gym. You know, if you guys are interested. They was like, word? Oh my God, this is what we was just looking for. Oh my God, we're gonna be there. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I said, I'm giving sample classes twice a week, every Tuesday, Thursday. I was still working at the health club.
Right.
But I was just, I had opened this space and I was just working this space kind of like at night. I was running classes there. And I said, well, every Tuesday, Thursday, I'm giving free classes, so if you wanna come along. This guy showed up with like 8 people. I cannot make this up. And he wound up becoming one of my closest friends. At the time, he built my website for me.
Wow.
He did all my marketing and all my graphics and stuff like that. So it wound up being like one of the best connections that I had in the first 7 years of my business.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know, his name is Rob, a really good friend of mine, man. You know what I'm saying? So he wound up, you know, yeah, that was big, and that taught me a big lesson. Like, you never judge a book by its cover.
Right.
You never assume. You never know where that next sell is coming from.
Yeah.
You know, you just got to keep pushing. And so I did not create a business plan. I never created a business plan. I just got started. Now, and starting that way, I will say that it was like a lot of lessons along the way that I had to learn in accounting and just business law and insurance and everything. You know what I'm saying? It was just so many lessons to learn, but I was open to learning it. And I just didn't want to sit and wait. I did not start with a big loan. You know, I didn't have anyone give me money. I used my own money. And I really did things kind of like on that guerrilla marketing, like really low budget. Like I said, I was bartering off services, you know, Rob with free membership to make my website. I was sitting up with him at 1 and 2 in the morning creating this website with him. And, you know, just really bartering off, taking deals and, you know, just, you know, doing what I had to do to just survive, right? You know, whether it was like, I don't know, I was just making all type of deals and, you know, to survive and financially as well as members, like, you know, people coming in, oh, I can't afford that, but I can afford this. I was like, all right,
yeah,
I'll take that. Like, you know what I mean? I worked for the health club for the first, I would say, 3 years of business.
Okay.
And so I was doing both, and I really I probably wasn't doing the business that effectively because I was scared. I was afraid. You know, I was afraid of losing that support of the health club. You know, I had a solid job. I was making a lot of money for them. And, you know, I had this dream of owning my own business. It came true. It really wasn't producing the type of money that I would be leaving here. So I was kind of like, and that fear kept me there a little too long. And the funny thing is, like, I mean, I was the head trainer there. Like, I was producing the most revenue. So I really had this kind of, you know, arrogance, I would say. Like, I just felt like I was untouchable. And I remember one day coming to the gym and they would tell me stuff like, you need to wear your shirt and you need to wear your uniform. And I used to be like, this is like, whatever, I wear what I want to wear. You know what I mean? And I remember coming to work one day and they hired a new fitness director. And he said, come in this office. And he was like this guy, just, you know,
corporate.
Whatever. Yeah, corporate guy, cornball, you know, just called me in his office and fired me. And I was just sitting there like shocked, like, you fired me? And I was saying to myself, like, okay. So I remember being like, you know, really, like, you know, embarrassed, humiliated, like, damn, I got fired, like, you know. It was a gut check, so I got up. I was like, okay. And I was like, all right. I got up. I walked downstairs to the general manager of the whole club. And I said, you know, I went and talked to her, and I was her. I said, you know, it's Felicia. I mean, I'm assuming you know Chris fired me. You had to give him the okay. And I said, and I was just really like hurt because I was like, you know, you're my boss, but we're friends, and I've done a lot for you over the years, and I would have expected you to even have that conversation with me. And she said to me, and she said, what did she say to me? It was real. And she was like, you know, I get that and I hear you. She said, but Ahmad, you started a business. And honestly, I'm doing you a favor. You need to go focus on your business. And I was just like, at the time, I wasn't trying to hear that. I was like, yeah, whatever, you fired me and stuff like that. But after sitting with that, it was like, she was right, because one is I would have never took that. I don't know. I wouldn't say I would have never. I would say that I don't know how long I would have neglected my business out of fear and staying there if she didn't let me go.
Right.
And from that moment, you know, I got so much support from my clients. It was like, what? We're coming with you. So many people came with me. And it just from that moment when I had to be there all day. You know what I mean? Like,
it's that uncomfortable period. I feel like my business personally took off once COVID gave me no business, right? So like, I was like, all right, what do I do? You can't touch people right now, can't be around them. So personal training, I was like, I'm not even gonna try to do the Zoom at this point. And that's when I just took the time. And I think that's kind of what people struggle with now is taking the time that's not making you money right now, right? And I took advantage of COVID like no other, and took that time to really build what it is I do on a daily basis.
Yes.
And something that you said earlier that I was like, I feel like a lot of people don't have right now who want to be entrepreneurs is that bigger goal mindset. Like, you were doing what you had to do to get there. You were bartering. Not a lot of people take bartering now as a disrespect sometimes. And it's like, if you were gonna pay X amount for this, but we can trade service, why wouldn't you? But some people get offended. Egos are really big, I feel like. But it's like, if you see the bigger picture, okay, me giving this service for free might lead to something in the future. And even if it doesn't, if I'm giving it with intention, it'll come back in a different way.
Absolutely. That's it. This this is my life. I base my life on the energy that I put out. I feel like in relationships and business and it's like, I have a saying, like, our relationship can never be affected by money. Like, I'll take the loss first. You know what I mean? So, and my thing, and the reason why I say that is like, now our relationship may change after that, but if you feel that I've done you wrong, it'll never be over money. It'll never be over money, because then I'll say, you know what? Then I'll take that loss. If it's a misunderstanding, it's like, that this can't be where we,
Right, disagree.
But yeah, but definitely, taking that risk, taking risks is a big thing. Taking risks is not easy. It's not easy. And like you said with yourself, like when COVID hit, you had to adapt. You had to grind. It's like sometimes when you get pushed, your back get pushed against the wall, you have no other way. You find a way. I mean, if you're truly passionate about, starting something and creating something. And I watched you like just really like go at so many things and stuff like that, and even grow from your situation. I watched that, and I've been watching you. I follow you on social media, and I see you, and I'm like, that's good. And even with this, I was like, she got something. It's gonna hit. And you're so young, and this is the journey that people look back and be like, just think you arrived, not knowing all the stuff you've been through. You know what I'm saying?
100%. So, and that's even more reason why I want to do this, right? Because kids have the information at their fingertips. So I want to touch the kid who's super motivated, who wants to learn, who's looking up this kind of information, because I didn't have it when I was young, and I probably would be 10 steps ahead if I did. But growing up in the day and age that I did, I still had some of that technology growing up. So I feel like I saw people doing things.
Absolutely.
And I definitely wanted better for myself. I actually said this in my therapy session before I came down here. I watch, and I still watch, my whole family living mediocre lives. All the little pockets of my family, they live lives that they're either settling, they're either miserable in, or, I could complain all day long if I wanted to. As a business owner, there's oodles of things to complain about, but why would you? Why would you fill the air with that? Why would you waste your breath on that? But I have family members who quite literally hate their lives so much that they complain all day long, and they think I'm just peaches and cream.
Yeah.
No, it's not, but is that productive? Is that moving a step forward? Those people don't want to. So my example was what I didn't want to be. And because of my environment, I dealt with some certain things, but like you said, I prevailed, and I'm just gonna keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
And I want to give the world what I like to consume. I love podcasts. I love listening and gaining more information while I'm in the car or on a dog walk, whatever it is. So bringing it back to your business. Once you took that step forward, once Felicia was like, listen, you're going to thank me later for this, trust and believe, kind of the way you did to me.
Hurt me more than it hurts you.
Yeah, the same way you did me, because honestly, I wasn't showing up in the way that I should have. And you gave me chance and chance again. And, I'm here now today because of it. So, she led you down the right path. You led me down the right path. And so how long were you in that 400 square foot?
So I was in that 400 square foot space for about a year and a half.
Okay.
A year and a half, and then a crazy turn of events happened. I started looking for bigger space, because what happened was I had the business. It was growing because now I was totally focused. And then what happened was I started a youth program. Now, and this was like, I had no intentions on starting the youth program for the kids, but 3 kids came into the space, that little space, one day after school. They heard about us from the local YMCA. And they came in and they was like, oh, you got boxing, we want to do it. Of course, they couldn't afford my prices. And I was just like, wow, all right, well, listen, if you guys show up, because you know that dead time in the gym is that 12 to about 4. And I said, well, listen, if you guys come in the gym, at 3 o'clock, and you show up, I'm going to be here. I'm here all day. I'll work with you guys until my class started at 5 and I started doing my sessions. So I did that. I started doing that with these 3. They start telling their friends, and more kids start coming. Until it was like so many kids, and my clients was coming in at 5, and they seeing all these kids, what's happening. So I'm just working with these kids. Like, Ahmad, you really need to start a 501c3. That way you can raise money, maybe hire some more help, and take some of the burden off you. Because you don't understand how much, you're giving a lot, but you don't understand. I wasn't thinking about all the impact of doing that was.
Right.
Like the time it was taken away from me, the space.
Yeah.
My partners at the time who sublet me the space, they were from Greenwich, and all their clients was from Greenwich, and the kids that I was serving were underserved youth, and they were feeling some type of way about them, giving them trouble. Who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah.
Just really wasn't seeing these kids for who they were. And I didn't want them having to always be questioned and, and stuff like that. And I was just like, I really was having that started the tension between us, because I'm like, just because they're not Greenwich house moms or corporate guys, you still got to respect them.
Yeah, I'm sure if they were coming in with lacrosse sticks, it'd be a different story.
You understand what I'm saying? So it was like, okay. So I started looking and looking and looking. And then I'm looking at spaces. I had a real estate agent. I'm looking at spaces. And one of my really good friends, who was my client at the time, he was like, Ahmad, because, and this is another thing. I put a post about this. I'm just really gonna go on a sidebar real quick. I always, whenever I had an idea, I always put it out there to everybody who would listen, all my friends and stuff like that. And I did that for people to hold me accountable, because I didn't want to show up the next time I see you and you ask me about this dream I had and I didn't do anything towards it. Right? So Michael Goldstein was my client and friend at the time, and I would tell him everything that was happening with this and that. And one day I was telling I'm looking at this space. I saw this space over here, and he said, Ahmad, did you ever ask these guys if you can take the space from them? And I'm just like, what? We're beefing, but they don't even know you are so upset with them and that you're leaving. Why don't you just go and talk to them and say, listen, would you want me to can I take over the space, buy you guys out? I just thought that was so far-fetched. My fears crept in. I didn't think it was possible, just something not the way I operate. Now I said, you know what, let me do that. And I asked them, and they said, yeah, we do want to get rid of this space. And I was like, what? So I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, okay. Don't talk. So now fear jumps in, because now I'm about to take on a big responsibility. I'm only paying a portion of the space. Now I'm about to acquire this entire space. And then they hit me with some legal stuff about, I'll take over their lease, the whole legal aspect of it. And, me taking over the lease and signing the lease over to me. I also had to agree to buy off a lot of their equipment, giving them a bunch of money to buy them out. Right? They gave me a contract where I had to buy the equipment and all this, and my good friend Michael, who recommended I asked him, was looking over the contract, and he just was like, yeah, it looks good. It's not, they're not trying to overcharge you or nothing like that. He said, however, you want to make sure that they indemnify you from anything that may come up in the future, because that was their business, their space. So because they used to lease that space, if something happens to somebody in that space, the assumption is that you took over the business and that people might legally come for you, and then you have to spend money in legal fees proving that you're not.
Right.
So
exactly.
you want them to identify you. So if that was that come up, they can step in and say,
We'll take care of
we're
this.
a totally different
Yeah.
business and all that stuff like that. So I mean, very simple.
But something you would have not known.
I didn't know.
Something I wouldn't have known.
Michael's a corporate lawyer. He pays attention to these things. He's like, yo, do not take this space. And I was so passionate. I'm like, nah, man, I finally got this space. I really didn't want to press it. They're like, no, we're not going to change that. And he was getting, the funny thing, he's a trainer, and he was getting advice from his client who was a lawyer, not a practicing lawyer, but just had a law degree. And he was telling him, no, don't do it, don't do it. And I was just like, well, what's the problem? Like, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you identify me? We just trying to just make sure that.
Right, if there's no wrongdoing that's gonna come our way,
Right.
you should sign this, no problem.
And Michael was like, well, that concerns me that he's saying, no, I wouldn't do it, Ahmad. I know you want this space. I know you want this space. Don't do it. He kept saying, I'm like, opportunity. And I can be very impatient. And I was like, okay. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna listen to him. They was like, no, they're not gonna do it. So they, right, little did I know, they were planning on leaving. They had already set it into motion. So they left, moved out, moved to Greenwich, right? I had to shut my business down for, some weeks and stuff like that. I get a call from, they moved out of the space, what have you. They would not do the contract with me, right? They left their lease. The owner of the building called me up, knew me, right? And said, do you want to take over this lease? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take over the lease. The equipment was still there.
The equipment.
They left the
paid
equipment.
for,
They never was
yeah.
going to take the equipment anyway. No, and that's the thing about fitness equipment. It's no market for it. And it's hard to move. So it's like
used, especially.
it's used. So typically people will just leave it. They left it. It was perfect for the landlord. Gave me a better deal than they had, and I didn't have to pay them the money for the equipment. So it was like the universe hit me with it, and it was like, oh, this is amazing. You know what I mean? And so I took over the whole space, moved the ring out of that small room, put it into the new room.
And that was in Stamford?
That was in Stamford, 860 Canal Street, right around the corner. Where the wheel, the wheel is?
Yeah, I do.
That is literally
actually.
my gym. That's literally the old gym. Where the wheel is, that restaurant is where the old gym was in. Yeah, that was the first gym. Yeah, and then we put the stuff, had another little Grand Yoga, painted, did it nice. It was really nice. It's very similar to this gym. We had that dark vibe to it, and it was doing really well.
How much square foot did you get after?
So it went from 400 square feet to 4,200 square feet.
Yeah.
Showers, locked, everything ours. I finally got my 501c3 letter came.
Oh yeah, and break that down for me because I have no idea what that is. Is that like nonprofit?
Nonprofit.
Okay.
So you're able to, you're tax exempt, and so what happens if people donate, they can write it off on their taxes. So like if you donate to me, you can write it off and get the tax benefit. So it gives
Incentive.
Donors incentive to donate. It's like if they needed a certain amount of their money written off, if you're their charity of choice, then you would get it. Whereas a person has to really be passionate about your mission to just give you money and not want that exempt. You know what I mean? So we got that. We had a huge fundraiser boxing show in the gym, which was huge. It was huge. That was our first fundraiser, and then we got.
What year was that?
That first fundraiser was like 2008, something like that. Something like that, 2008, and it was huge. It was big. It was the first one, and then we just started giving shows and fundraisers, and we just for the youth program, raising money for my youth program grew, the gym grew. 2008, by the end of 2008, the recession hit. That was our first blow. It was like, so that was a hard hit because we just expanded, maybe a year ago. We just grew, and then now the economy collapsed. You know, the financial institutions collapsed. So now, what's getting hit hard? Services, you know, where people don't have to spend money doing. And it hit my demographic hard. So that was tough. You know, we survived it. Got real creative with my landlord, and and just being able to talk to people, have real conversations with, my landlord and other business people, and we worked it out. I don't know what I did, but I worked it out where they remodeled the gym. It was crazy. It was some bananas, and it was bananas. It's like, they couldn't help me no other way, but it was like, we'll help you this way. And they did, and they remodeled the gym, because I said if the gym was remodeled in a certain way, that I would be able to bring more revenue. And they really were partners with me, wanted my business to be successful. So they did everything they could, aside from giving me money, to help me be more productive. And they did, and it really worked. Then eventually the building was owned by this big company that went bankrupt and foreclosed on that whole plot of land, that Harbor Square part of land, and someone bought it. And then I learned that if a person buys a property off foreclosure, then they can sue all the tenants out of their long-term leases. So I had like 2 more 5-year options on my lease. They took me to court, sued me out of them, so that I would be on a month-to-month basis, so that when they were ready to develop the business, the property, they can just, I had to leave like within 60 days. And I was like, well, I can't do that, because I'm running a membership-based business that has a long-term contract. I said, I can't do it. So I started looking for a space, and that's when I found Pacific Street. And then we was over there for 9 years. Wow. And then now we're here at 816 Canal Street,
And so what was the motivator for the move from
Pacific Street?
Yeah.
Well, I will say this, right? Starting the business, like kind of on a shoestring budget, doing a guerrilla market, and just really just finding a way and figuring things out as the years went by. I have a saying, right? Everything I've been through and everything I went through has prepared me for this moment, right? For the very next moment. And I feel that everything I went through prepared me to deal with the pandemic. It prepared me to adjust, adapt, to be creative, to lean on people, to be vulnerable, to ask for things, I hate asking people for things, but I had to ask people for things. I had to lean on relationships that my pride was telling me, but I said, yo, listen, these are relationships and people that I've known for years. They know my mission. They know what I want to do. I'm not just going to give up. And that allowed me to be able to survive the pandemic. However, everybody had to survive, including my old landlord. She had to survive also. And it became very challenging, because her survival and what she needed to do to survive was hurting me and hindering me from surviving.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? She needed to get tenants. She needed to get people in. She needed to get people in, and she did what she had to do. And I listen, I have no hard feelings or anything bad to say about her. But however, you doing that, it's hurting me from expanding or from getting back to where I was before the pandemic, right? Parking and just the nature of the businesses that you're bringing in
around.
It's just not productive.
No.
And anyway, my ultimate goal in business was to stop being a tenant, because in essence, when you are a tenant in business, you do have a boss. You do have the boss, and my boss was my landlord, because I have to make the money to give to her to be in the space, right? So, and I have to listen to everything she tells me to do. I can't do this. I can't. So I have these restrictions. So I really don't have that freedom in business that I desire. And that's always been my goal, is to have that freedom. And an opportunity came up where that I was able to enter into a lease to buy situation. And that is always more appealing to me, because now I have the opportunity to work towards my own freedom in that. And you could see around this space that I was able to do everything I wanted to do with this space. And it's still happening. It's like to create, you know, this integrated business, this social business, because I always consider Revolution Training a social business, right? That gets to partner with the nonprofit that I started, right? And helping, because, you know, and both of their mission is to help people, right? So the youth boxing program is more focused on youth and giving them a safe and productive space to spend their after school and summertime. And the for-profit is helping people gain that self-esteem and empowerment through their bodies, right? So, you know, now I'm able to create an environment that will promote that mission, right? So, but it wasn't easy. A lot of hard work, a lot of tough decisions, a lot of money, you know what I mean? A lot of risk, you know what I mean? But you know, and at my age, you know, you tend to like become more afraid to take risks, right? Because, right, I mean, that I'm 47, so I should be considering, you know, my investments, that second half of my life, what I'm going to do, how I'm going. But it's like, you know, I just, you know, I got kids, they're in school, I have to pay for their tuition. But it's just like, you know what? I believe in what I'm doing, and I believe the universe provides what you need. So I'm like, you know what? I can't live in that fear. I still have more work to do. I just have to look at the work that I'm doing and just trust that if I'm doing it right, then the right things will happen. You know, that's how I've always lived in my business, you know.
When you showed me this space, before any of this was in here, and it was just the first room. I think you remember, it was just the first room. I was like, oh my God, Ahmad, this is crazy. And then he brought me in this room. And I was like, there's another door? And then he brought me into the office. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. What is the difference in square footage? Because it has to be crazy.
It really isn't. But you know, if you remember the old space, there was so much lost space.
Yeah, because the way it was so like,
Yes, and that was because of how I had to leave my first space. So my first space was perfect. It was really perfect. 860 Canal was perfect. It was amazing. It's so funny. I have people that just rejoined the gym that used to come to 860, and they told me this only when they got here. They said, you know, I never came to the new gym because it just didn't feel like 860.
Wow.
This feels like 860. It felt, and it's funny they said this, right? And this was like two people who said this. One of them used to be one of my fighters, and another was just a member. They said it always seemed like you were making Revolution Fitness Training fit in that space. Like you were just making it work. Whereas this seems like Revolution Training. This seems like the gym. Where in 860 seemed like the gym. Right? You know what I mean? And that's what it is. This is Revolution. It's not like we're trying to fit. This was created for it, right?
Right.
The first one was created for it through time, and all the time and love is my first business. My passion was on overload. You know, I was fiery. I was, you know, it was like, it looked, the old space looked like a museum too. It was like photos and paintings everywhere. It was insane, right? And then I had to leave that space, and I found something that was really good and really great for 9 years. Now it's like, oh, okay, the universe shifted, moved us into something. You know, it hears you. It starts with an idea. I always tell you, it starts with an idea, a vision. If you can see it, smell it, envision it, and work towards it every day, then you're gonna accomplish your goal. And you gotta speak it into the universe. I always tell people, I'm gonna have my own gym, I'm gonna own my own building. I'm gonna do this. We're gonna have, I say it. I talk to people. I talk about my goals. I say it. Oh, what happened? They hold you accountable. Oh, what happened with this? Oh, I did this towards. I did this towards it. You know what I mean? But I'm always, you know, speaking and dreaming. my vision and imagining it. You know what I mean?
You know what's interesting that you say that? It makes me think about when I was in that toxic relationship, when I was working here, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody because I wanted to save face for him, save face for me, and I didn't want to deal with it. So I didn't tell anyone. I was like, oh yeah, our relationship is fine, it's fine, you know, putting makeup over my bruises and whatnot. And it was until I was done that I told everybody. This motherfucker's beating me up, y'all. He's beating me up because I was like, I'm not going back.
And you know, if you spoke it to people,
they wouldn't let me.
They wouldn't
let me. So that's what it was. It was really just speaking it into existence and letting everyone know so they can hold you accountable.
Absolutely.
It was like if they didn't know, how were they supposed to help or hold me accountable? No one knew. So I was going through that for 2.5 years, not letting anybody know. And it wasn't until then, like you said, that where it was like, I can't not.
You weren't ready to let go, right? And you knew once you spoke it, you would have to let it go, right? Or you couldn't look your loved ones in the face and be like, knowing that you were going through this, they knowing that you're going to go back to it. You knew that. So when you were ready, you spoke it into the universe. You know, for them to hold you accountable, and that applies for
everything.
It applies to everything.
Everything you're saying applies to everything, and I feel like just speaking it into existence is so powerful. And I always say, like, before I say certain things, I'm like, I know it sounds a little woo-woo, you know, like to just say stuff into the universe, but it wasn't until I started saying I want to publicly speak that I got asked to be on a panel at Blackstone Steakhouse. It wasn't until I was like, I want to travel for work that I started traveling for work.
Absolutely.
And then I was like, all right, okay. So I was like, besides being a woman and besides being black, I quite literally can just say stuff and it'll happen. And I don't think it's a matter of, you know, if you don't believe in the universe and you believe in God, or if you don't believe in God and you believe in something else, at the most minute of explanations, it's just putting it out there and saying it out loud for yourself that lets you know, I gotta work towards this. If you don't say it and you're just thinking, oh yeah, one day I want to own a house, one day, maybe, you know, it's always the verbiage around it too. Like, I stopped saying maybe, I stopped saying if, I said when.
Power in words.
When it happens, it's gonna happen. You know, it's just, it's so powerful. I was watching something today and it was like, this world is all about energy, and your job is to figure out how to manipulate that energy to work for you. And once you do, that's manifestation, and that's having energy worked for you.
Absolutely.
So I feel like it sounds woo-woo.
Believe it. It's not.
To the people who can't absorb it right now. You know, they may be able to absorb it in the future, but
or it can be said in different ways. But I think what you're speaking is that universal way of saying it. It's like it really is, because even if you believe in religion, or if you have a set religion or something like that, it's the same. We're saying the same thing.
Exactly.
You know, but you may be using God. You may be using. But the truth is, you have to speak it into existence. You have to believe it. You're right. You have to believe it can happen. You know, and if you believe it, you'll say it and you'll speak it with, with confidence, and then you'll start working towards it and working towards it. And you might not know how it's going to show up, right? You got to be patient, because you might speak like, I want this, I want that. Just know it ain't going to look the way you think it's going to look, right? So be very clear and very specific on what you want, because you're not going to know. It's new, right? It's new, so it might show up. You might have to go through a few things, right, to prepare you to accept that, right? So you might have to get knocked down a few more times, because maybe you're not ready for it at that moment. The universe heard you. So it's like, are you sure? Okay. Well, you're going to have to trip over, hit your head, do this, like, because I'm preparing you for what you asked for. But it might not look, the journey might not look the way you think it should. And how could you even know what the journey looked like?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, from a little girl, I thought I was going to grow up to be a model. Now I'm on the other side of the camera, right? But I'm still doing everything I wanted to do.
And that front, Yeah.
And honestly, I like it better because I can show up not looking any type of way.
Right.
You know, so yeah, photography is a vehicle, you know, all the other things that I do, but it is truly just believing in yourself, believing that even in a time where it feels like money isn't abundant, there's so much money out there.
No, it
you
is.
know?
It is. And there's ways to get it.
Yeah.
There's ways to get it.
It might not feel like it down here, but there's still money at the top.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's there. It's there. And you know, I think if you're doing what you're passionate about, then you'll have the patience to put in the work to get it. Right.
Exactly.
And that's why what people say, do what you love, do what you're passionate about, because that love and that passion will hold you over while you're going through the struggles of getting what you want. You know what I mean? Because it's not easy.
No.
Yeah, success is not easy. You know, a lot of times people see the person already arrive, right? And they don't know the journey, right? They don't know the journey because, and what the person that you perceive to be successful going to tell you about is that journey. They're going to always speak about the journey. They'll never talk about what they got, right? Because that's what you got. That's what it is. But the real juicy stuff is in the journey, like what they are. I remember I went through this, and you know, this was crazy, you know. Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
I remember the journey, man. You know, and it was and it wasn't all bad. It was great. It was ups and downs, but you know, the ups and downs make it more vibrant, more real to you. You know what I mean? So. Yeah.
So, if you could give one piece of advice to someone starting out, what would you say?
I would say to just go for it, like just do it, right? So it's like, you know, and I always say this, right? It's like you should have some expertise in the business that you're going into, right? It's like, you know, and normally people do. They you know, if they have a business idea, it's usually in the field that they have some expertise in.
Right.
So they kind of know how it works. I think a lot of times people just think of like, I just want to be an entrepreneur, just myself, and I'm going right. You know, there's partnerships, right, that you can partner with people and grow in. But my point is, like, don't let your idea of what being an entrepreneur or being a business owner or starting your own business stop you from getting started. You know what I mean? I've seen it so much, and I like, I've known people say, "Oh, I'm gonna take this class," and let's just say like a Zumba class. I'm gonna take this Zumba class because I want to start teaching Zumba. Then they take the Zumba class, and they was like, "Oh, I'm gonna just wait till I get, these new shoes and before I start teaching at this class, and new shoes and this new outfit." It's like, okay. And I'm gonna wait until, I don't really like teaching at this place. I'm gonna wait till opening happens over here. And it's like, yo, you're setting up all these excuses. Why not to get started? Like, no, just do something. Say, I'll teach a free class. You understand? I'll teach a free class. I'll take some pictures. Let me take some pictures of you. Let me, get started. Get started, because then just keep going in the direction of your goal, because the path will get laid out. I'm telling you, for you. You don't know who you might meet. You don't know what opportunities may go. Your class might start. You might teach a free class, every Zumba class, while you're practicing your craft every Thursday, and that might wind up being one of the most popular classes. Now you're saying, and people love you, and you say, well, listen, hey guys, I've been giving it to you for free. Now I'm going to start charging you 10. And then after a few months, I'm going to start charging you 20. And then you say, okay, and then it start growing, and you're just like, oh shit, this is what I wanted to do. If I would have waited, who knows? There's so many things can come up to discourage you from getting started.
Yeah, I think it's really important to know that, like, staying still is worse than stepping forward and, like you said, tripping and falling, doing all that, because, like, at least you're moving forward
towards your goal.
At least there's never gonna be a right time for virtually anything in life.
Yes. It's not.
It's now. It's now.
Yeah, the perfect time is now. It's never going to be a perfect time. You can always come up with a reason. Always. So just getting started, moving forward, just 1 foot at a time. And it's like running a marathon, right? I always tell people, if you think about the 26 miles you got to run, you'll never do. You just, especially at mile 5, you thinking about the other 21 you got ahead. Keep your head down and move. Just keep moving, one step. Stop looking at all the work that you can imagine that it's going to take to get there, and just do something. Do something. Get started.
Yeah.
Don't wait. The perfect time is now. If you have a dream, a goal, speak it into existence. Write it on the walls. Tell yourself that. Talk to people like you already have it, that it's happening. Mm-hmm. Be confident in it. Move towards it. You know what I mean? But you do something. Be consistent. And that's, if I had to tell anybody, that is it. That is it. I tell my boys that. I'd be like, yo, man, it's like you guys want to be whatever you want to be. Don't listen to people, 1 in a million that happens for us. Like, well, you can be that one. Mm-hmm. Do you believe you can be that one? Then you can be that one. Like, you have to believe it. You have to believe it, and you have to move towards that and put in the work. So if I had any advice, don't wait. Get started. Yeah, get started.
Is there something that you could have learned easier in the realm of finances when it comes to handling business? I know for me, like, financial jargon and everything like that was so foreign for so long. Both of my parents are not good with money. They're still not good with money. Mm-hmm. So those were habits and ideals that I had to get rid of. Mm-hmm. I grew up in very starvation mindset. Mm-hmm. It takes money to make money, but that's a very scary feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that poverty, I suffer from it. That poverty mentality, I suffer from remnants of that and decisions that I make, and still my ideals of money is based on that's where we come from, right? Mm-hmm. So we didn't have someone teaching us. My mother was a nurse for 40 years, and my father did everything. He was a businessman, but he was also alcoholic. He was a drug addict. He was a lot of things. But they never taught me. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the things I did have to learn on my own. So if I cannot say how, that's a hard question for me to say. I could have done it easier. In hindsight, I could only have done it the way I've done it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It would have been no easier way for me to have done it. And what I did realize is this, that I'm training people who, they are professionals in finance. They are very successful. They were older at the time. They were doing things that I aspired to do, and they were my consultants. Like, they were the people that I talked to. They didn't even know they were my mentor. But I would talk to my clients, and I wouldn't talk about myself. I'd just be talking to them. What you do for work? Oh, what you do? Like, so, and then I'll creep in something about me. So what if this and this? And and because you're helping them, and you have this exchange of service, they are so generous with their advice and the same thing that they telling their kids. They'll tell you, oh, you should do this, and you open up a conversation with somebody and their expertise, it'll come flooding. You need to do this, and that's how I learned. That's how I learned. It wasn't from my mom. It wasn't from my dad. It was from my clients. It was from the people that like, yes, I do have my highest level of education is associate in business, which at the time I was even taking it, I really wasn't totally locked in. So a lot of the lessons I've learned in business were like trial and error, talking to clients and friends and having conversations and being open to having conversations about, and being vulnerable, like, yeah, I don't know that, can you tell me this, and can you tell me that? And having conversation with people, you'd be shocked. Reading, subscribing to like business journals and things like that, reading the Wall Street Journal. I would just do things like that, just read and just look at the news and be like the financial news and stuff like that and be like, okay. And you know, and if you're intelligent, you get it. It won't take long for you to put it together. You're like, okay. And you know, and even like I tell my boys now, I'm like, yo, you know, because they're consumers. And I'm like, yo, dude, stop being such consumers. Don't be such, you know, like start thinking about investing and making, you know, you're growing. You're consuming things that you will not be relevant next year. Like be more thoughtful about, you know, so they had me to give them that. I didn't have that. You didn't have that. But you do have friends and stuff like that. And it goes back to that old saying, right? The people you surround yourself with.
You are the 5 closest people.
Yeah, make sure the people that you're surrounded yourself with is that you're getting something out of conversations that you're having with them. Like you're talking and you're like, oh wow, damn, I'm happy I went to go see them and we had this conversation because I'm leaving this conversation. You know, we talked and had laughed, he, but we also locked in it for a moment and I got something out of it.
I'm better off because of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very few people I consider friends, but if I can gain value from you and if I can do nothing with you, I consider you a friend because I usually never a time where I'm doing nothing. But if we can sit in silence, you're a real friend.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. I feel like there are so many nuggets in this podcast. Y'all, you better take notes and just keep moving, honestly. Keep moving forward in the direction that you want to be. There's nothing worse than staying stagnant. And if you keep moving forward, you know, it will materialize. It
will materialize, and it don't stop. You know, I don't have a destination in mind. You know what I mean? I just, you know, I know my goals going to shift, my vision may shift, my interest may shift. You know what I mean? And what I want to do. You know what I mean? I'm passionate about helping people. Well, I don't know where that next step is going to take me, but I do know that I'm going to keep moving and pushing in that direction. So, like I said, don't wait. Get started. You know, keep pushing forward. Keep pushing forward. Dream big.
Yeah.
And ain't no dream too big. Just dream big as, Yeah, I think that's, if you ask me one of my, like, you know, the things that I can do better, I can dream bigger. I can dream big, I can make bigger goals. You know what I mean? Sometimes it can be safe. And that's where that impoverished mentality comes in, right? That can be too safe. Sometimes you need to dream a little bigger.
Yeah. The risk got you this far, so some more will get you farther.
Take more risks. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you, Ahmad. I will have all his links down below. Train with Ahmad, Revolution Fitness, Revolution Training CT, the website where you can donate to the youth program that's going on right now. The summer camp, the kids are here. So if you wanna write off, donate.
Hit us up.
Yeah.
Kids will love it.
Yes. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Junior watching, I be on my Junior watching, I be on my Tell him this, did he miss? Junior watching, I be on my I can't really see where did I miss. Junior watching, I be on my Junior watching, I be on my Tell him this, did he miss? Junior watching, I be on my ex-strippers, new killers, shot, tell him, just on Donda, on my mama, made a promise, Junior watching, I be on my Junior watching, I be on my tell him this, did he miss? Junior watching, I be on my I can't really see where did I miss. Junior watching, I be on my Junior watching, I be